Today, we're happy to have Ted Schadler, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester, joining us to talk to digital transformation in your business. Ted has 29 years of experience in the technology industry, analyzing the effects of disruptive technologies on people and businesses. His research focuses on digital transformation, digital innovation, digital experience platforms, and digital experience service providers. His current interests and collaborations include digital experience architectures, rebuilding the web for our mobile world, personalization, digital customer experience, and digital insights. Ted is also the co-author of The Mobile Mind Shift, Engineer Your Business to Win in the Mobile Moment. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everybody. Great to be here today. So today we're going to talk about digital transformation, unlocking business opportunity. We've had digital around for as long as I've been in this business. We call it technology and software back in the day, but now we call it digital. And the point is that the technology allows you to radically improve and transform what you can accomplish as a business. So we're going to walk through this today in a couple of ways, but I'd like to start with a picture because it's astounding to me how good the technology is. This was taken from an iPhone, and I can almost make you a bet that with enough of these images and machine learning image scan behind them, that a computer could tell you where this picture was taken. There's enough information in this photo to do that. It's actually in Canada, in the Rockies, but the amount of technology that shows up here is just amazing, and we often don't see it. However, what we do see is the experience that we deliver, and that's extremely important, and it's a motivator to transform business. So digital transformation and digital experience transformation requires a lot more than just a pretty front end. It requires digital operational excellence. So we're going to structure today's conversation in the following four slices. What is digital transformation? We're going to talk about what we call the new rules of business. We're going to then do a drill down into the technology that firms are investing in, and then some ideas on how to get started. And then Matt is going to close us out with some more information very, very relevant to you. So I'm going to start with some data. At Forrester, we collect a lot of data. We do massive surveys. This is a survey of 1,600 business and IT decision makers, and it's in North America and Europe is where this sample's from. And we ask about what's going to have the biggest effect on your business decisions over the next 12 months. And you can see that the number one, with 38%, is technological changes, and then economics, and then politics, and so on. So technology change dominates business thinking. But when it comes to the impact of the technology change, it's customer experiences that shape it. So this is another survey focused on experience delivery. And as you can see here, we want to improve the user experience across all the touch points. We want to deliver highly customized experiences. We want to improve customer service, and we need to improve integration with our back-end systems and embrace agile development methodologies to accomplish that. So customer experience is sort of the leading edge, if you like, of the ship, where the ship itself is your entire business. So to do that effectively, you have to transform every function in your company. Now, we're going to come back to this chart, but let me introduce you to it. There are rows and columns. The rows have the functions or departments, and the columns are industry sectors, like manufacturing, for example, business services, and then financial services and some others. And this is a heat map. So the redder it is, the more companies are transforming that process or that function. And the darker blue it is, the fewer companies are doing it. So you can see that there's a very hot red line in the middle, which is IT processes across every single industry sector. Companies are transforming IT in order to fulfill the customer promise. The other big area of investment is at the front of the company for marketing, sales, customer service. These are places where most industries are transforming every single function to a very high degree. And then there are pockets of change throughout. So in financial systems, for example, there are big changes right now going on in financial services, of course, but also in places like utilities and telecommunications. So it's not just the front end. However, customer experience drives the strategy. And this is a Jeff Bezos quote. He, of course, is trying to take over the world. But he's been selling this message of customer obsession for decades. And this is a nice, I think, example, and Forrester is very much aligned with this strategy. You want to be customer obsessed, not competitor obsessed, because customers are always dissatisfied. They want more. If you're just looking at your competition, you see everyone behind you if you're a leader and you slow down, but customers will always pull you along. When you step back a little bit from that statement and say, well, what do we actually get with digital touchpoints, with web and mobile and voice and chat and other customer engagement through screens and keyboards? And the answer is that digital lets you kind of shorten the time and the distance between what a customer wants and what they actually get. And I would remind us that what's true for customers is also true for employees. So digital lets you shorten the distance between what your employees need to be successful and then the insights and data and capabilities to accomplish their goal. Digital works in both of those areas, but only if you can deliver on the customer promise. And so this is a quick story about Caterpillar. Caterpillar, of course, has lots and lots of manufacturing capacity and capability in multiple markets, from the largest earth movers in these gigantic mines down to more neighborhood-sized equipment, things that people might actually buy on their farm or even in their home. One of the issues that Caterpillar is wrestling with is how do they go directly to customers with equipment that they can buy, and how do they provide visibility into the feature function and the timing of delivery of that equipment. So if you think about a very large lawn tractor, which is one of their businesses, they need to be able to track that tractor through the manufacturing process at every step. And so they needed to dramatically improve their ability to watch what's going on with that equipment. And they actually used IoT to do that. So they essentially put a bonnet on each tractor so they know where it is in the yard, in the manufacturing facility. Is it waiting for paint or whatnot? So a lot of investments in process and in operations in order to fulfill the customer promise of delivering directly to a customer. Now, a lot of companies don't do this. They try to get by with a bolt-on strategy. It's a little bit like putting racing stripes on an old Beetle. You know, it's probably not going to make it go faster. So when you think about digital as just the front end, just the experience, you realize that a bolt-on digital strategy is not transformative. It will not radically change the customer experience or improve the success of the company beyond kind of the obvious, that somebody comes online as opposed to picking up the phone. To do more, to go farther, you have to transform the entire organization. So we define digital transformation as companies that use technology and partnerships or ecosystems to continually improve customer outcomes and simultaneously increase their operational agility, their ability to move quickly in response to, for example, an insight, something they learned by analyzing data. So that's a definition, a formal definition of digital transformation. But let's bring it to life through the rules of business. And we've identified 4 major thrusts, impact of digital on business. So the first rule is, we call it digital experience. And you have to deliver experiences that are easy and effective and emotional. In other words, they need to appeal to somebody's sense of need and desire and accomplishment. And this is why usability is so important. This is why focusing on the customer experience is so important. And the reason is quite simple. If you put something in front of a customer, or an employee for that matter, and it's not usable and it's not useful, then they're not going to use it. They'll do something else. So the first rule does focus on digital experiences. As an example of this, we can look at Stitch Fix. So Stitch Fix is a trunk retailer. You give them information about your size and your color preferences and your style preferences, and they ship you a box of clothes and accessories every month. They've recently gone public, very, very successful. So they've done a lot of work on the experience. You work with a stylist, it learns what you like, and so it improves its ability to pick clothes that you are, in fact, going to want to wear. But to fulfill that promise, they have made massive investments, not just in the front-end delivery and in the personalization, but also in the supporting systems. So the inventory management systems, the fulfillment systems, and they use artificial intelligence, machine learning into the data, and a lot of closed-loop insights-driven decision-making and action in order to accomplish that. And just, I think one metric really drives this home. So not only are they growing rapidly in response to the quality of their experience and service, but they run the lowest cost inventory operation of any retailer because they only order what they need to fulfill what customers need, because they know the likelihood of a customer wanting that color, wanting that size, wanting that style. And they've done that because they've created this insights-driven capability that spans from the customer returns all the way through to the inventory and the product management and product ordering. So tremendous end-to-end capability. There are technical implications, of course. For digital experiences, you need an architecture. It's not just a piece of software to do marketing. You need a customer profile that grows as you learn more about what a customer is and adapts itself to the customer's last action. You need to be thinking about journey-centric, not sort of channel-centric. So, for example, if I start on the web and then go to a mobile app and then pick up the phone and talk to somebody, I want that to be seamless from a customer experience perspective. And then lastly, that it become, as I was saying with Stitch Fix, to be insights-driven. Not just the data, not just reporting, but what does the data mean to drive action and decision-making? So that's the first rule, and it is a compelling pull on your digital transformation. However, you have to go much farther. And so the second rule we call digital operations, to focus operations on things that customers value, things that customers will recognize as important to them. So now we come back to this picture that I showed you earlier, and a lot of this transformation is in support of that customer value. So I used Caterpillar as an example. I'll draw your attention to the 38% sort of pink cell in the manufacturing column and the manufacturing row. This is where Caterpillar had to invest in order to improve what they were able to do for customers. So that's a linkage that I'd like to make sure we don't lose. We need to be thinking about inventory management, for example, and distribution if we're in the media industry, because without that we can't really fulfill the promise of, say, a Netflix experience. So we need to be really zeroing in on the things that enable that powerful customer experience. An example of this is Home Depot. So Home Depot CEO came out in the fall of 2016 and said that they're going to spend $300 million mobile enabling the store. And they did it, the CEO, Blake Frank, did it as part of an earnings announcement because Home Depot was, missing earnings a little bit. So that sounds like a lot of money over 10 years, $300 million. Remember, it's a huge company. But 6 months later, Blake Frank came out and said, well, actually, we're going to spend $1.5 billion. So what happened in 6 months to go from $300 million to $1.5 billion? Well, what he realized, what Home Depot realized, is that they needed to change their entire fulfillment and delivery capability. They had to build gigantic distribution warehouses. They had to completely transform the way they work with their supply chain because customers don't want to order what's in the store. They want to order what's in the catalog. Amazon has taught us all that. So to allow a contractor or a homeowner to order online or on a phone on Tuesday and pick it up on Wednesday, they had to completely transform their back-end operation. That's what I mean by digital operations, supporting the front-end delivery of the customer experience. The third rule we call digital ecosystems, and these are platforms and partnerships that allow you to accelerate and scale. So an example would be that you're not going to necessarily build your own payment system. You're going to use MasterCard. In fact, a lot of companies that are going direct to consumer now are using payment services like Stripe and PayPal, because why should they build their own payment service? That's an example of a partnership that allows you to accelerate and scale. Of course, in the software world, we've always had this in mind. We look for software that accelerates. We buy and adapt and configure rather than build, build, build. And that transition continues. So that's a digital ecosystem. An example of this is SupplyOn. So SupplyOn is a direct procurement company that helps very large manufacturers like Siemens or Airbus, for example, do direct procurement of parts from thousands of part makers. They've been around for a while, but they've gotten very sophisticated in using APIs to bring together all of the catalog capacity, all the what you might want to buy, and then to streamline through things like reordering or vendor-managed inventory so that they can do a direct procurement purchase of that part. So tremendous outsourcing, if you like, of Siemens and Airbus to SupplyOn to manage the supply chain, basically. So that kind of ecosystem and integration is a very important part of both the parts makers' success and these major manufacturers' success. I have a few thoughts here. We've done a lot of work recently on platform businesses, and I think it's important when you're thinking about ecosystems to think about what does that mean? Well, I want to move faster, so I need partners that can co-innovate, can do innovation on my behalf, or where I benefit from their investments. Ecosystems are built on APIs and integration and partnerships. So if I'm building my own platform, I have to become a great partner. And so partnering becomes a critical skill. And then lots of integration in an ecosystem, software-based integration. And of course, the internet makes that possible. So there's a lot of change that you have to think about in terms of partner management, in terms of integration, in terms of getting the most out of a supplier or being the best provider. So great and important area for many of you. The fourth rule of business we call digital innovation. And the key point here, tying back to our theme that you need operations to support experiences, is that you need to innovate at the intersection of experiences and operations. So when you just do a quick picture of it, you've got improvements on behalf of customers supported by the entire company. Now, we have this 80-20 rule here because it shows up again and again and again, that 20% of your effort is actually on the digital front end or the customer-facing systems. 80% of your effort and investment is on the supporting capabilities to fulfill that customer promise. And I'll just recall the Home Depot number, $300 million for the front end, $1.5 billion total, so $1.2 billion for the back end. That's an 80-20 rule. It shows up right there. And the innovation, again, is to allow somebody to order on phone and pick up in store from any item in the catalog. There's a lot of examples of this innovation at the intersection of experiences and operations, but one of them I particularly like is the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta, so the Falcons play here. This is massive. You can see that great kind of star-shaped thing at the top. That's a roof that closes because, of course, Atlanta's hot in the summer and it's air-conditioned. But when you think about the fan experience, which is very, very powerful, I'm sure most of us, not all of us, have had that experience, is way more than a good seat and a glass of beer and great play on the field. It's also how do you get on and off to your seat, the facilities that support that, the food service, the Wi-Fi, the giant screens everywhere that keep you in touch with what's going on. There's a tremendous amount of complexity by a construction firm building this. And so they need to think about innovation in every single layer of the experience delivery. And so this is a very big change for this industry because they need the supporting systems to allow them to fulfill the much bigger opportunity that an internet-enabled stadium experience lies. And so IBM tells this story about being essentially the audiovisual network, internet, Wi-Fi integrator for this project. And they had to bring together so much information and capacity and capability to do it. This was innovation at the intersection of experiences and operations. So that's a quick story about how digital changes business, transforms business. So now let's drill down a little bit into the technology side of this. We have, again, a lot of data here. This is a giant survey we do every year. almost 4,000 IT decision makers, and we ask about what are your priorities around technology investment. And the key point here is that 83% of companies are making back office technology investments a high or moderate priority. It's about a third or just over a third high priority and the rest a moderate priority. In other words, this is a very important realization that we need to invest in back office technology in order to transform the business. When you look at what they're spending money on, I think it's helpful, this is a picture we put together a few years ago, to take a systems view. So at the top in green are the systems of engagement that touch people, touch customers. That's the web and the mobile and all the rest of that. On the left are the systems of automation and IoT that allow you to extend out to the edge to sort of empower and enable through devices, for example. On the lower right are the systems of record, the transaction systems, the systems we rely on to actually run our business and provide visibility into where we are in anything that we care about, whether it's a manufacturing process or a financial closing process or a customer fulfillment process, for example. And then in the middle are systems of insight that power your business. And the Stitch Fix example is very much about all of these things working together. Systems of engagement, including the personalization, systems of record to order and fulfill, and systems of insight to optimize and really power the success of the company. So ERP is a big part, of course, of systems of record. You need a high-quality, consolidated, I believe, single instance, where possible, ERP in order to have visibility into where you are, what you're doing, and what you can do on behalf of customers in order to be able to automate things that are improvable, in order to be able to have visibility so you can optimize things like your supply chain relationship, the ability to close out books efficiently. This all lies in these systems of record. Let's move over to the systems of insight for a minute and look at analytics and artificial intelligence. So yet another survey, when we ask for data and analytics decision makers, we ask about where you're using or building predictive systems. So 81% of companies are using or building predictive systems today, 59%, or plan to in the next 12 months. So in other words, most companies are using predictive analytics to improve their business. Well, how are they improving their business? Well, ask that question, and here's the answer. The number one is to improve customer experience. So gather data on engagement, on experiences, and improve that customer experience. But we're also growing revenue by doing better targeting, for example. We're reducing our operating expenses. We're improving our business agility. Predictive analytics allows us all of these opportunities because it helps us look forward into what we should do next. Artificial intelligence, of course, is the kind of the new kid on the block. It is the latest and I believe really, really powerful technology force that will allow us to continue to improve to be insights driven. So when we ask the same group, 71% of companies are using artificial intelligence today, half, or plan to in the next 12 months, 20%. So AI has clearly gone mainstream in terms of adoption. When you ask how firms are using, how are you using your artificial intelligence, actually security turns out to be the big one. To predict based on behavior where we might have security holes. To improve automation, so robotic process automation, for example, to gain better customer insights, to introspect the engagement data, to improve efficiencies in business operations, and to create and deliver a better customer experience. So analytics and AI, huge powers for insights-driven business. So that's the technology side of this story. Investments across the board, but certainly including the operating model, processes, and systems required to support that customer fulfillment. So how can you get started? Well, there are lots of challenges. There's often a lack of executive understanding, not quite connecting the dots between what you're doing in the operating side and what you're doing on the experience delivery side. We're organized in a siloed way, and for good reason, legacy-wise, but not aligned against customers. So that's a problem. Legacy, a lot of legacy applications. Stovepipe stacks. So stacks that don't share data and don't share process. Lack of ownership. There's not a shared agreement about what in a customer outcome matters. And the metrics that we organize against, the IT metrics, are very different from the marketing and sales metrics, for example. So misaligned metrics. And we need to overcome all of those things. Because if we put the customer at the center, if we are customer obsessed, we realize that all parts of the company come together to serve the customer. Not just marketing and sales, but technology and the analytics organization, the product teams, the operations teams, customer service teams, and the finance teams. Everybody comes together to solve that customer problem. When we ask about who's in charge of digital transformation, it could be anybody, CEO, chief digital officer, but many firms put the CIO in charge. That reflects, I think, a lot of the transformation investment required, which is in those core systems. So how should you do it? Well, you should assess your digital maturity and identify the gaps in what you can do today. That helps you prioritize investments to overcome those gaps. You need to, build relationships between business people, marketers, and IT on specific customer outcomes, not just on core systems. In other words, the reason to build agreement and relationships is because we're trying to accomplish a customer goal. We're trying to achieve something for our customers. That unites us. That brings technology and business and marketing together. We need a two-path roadmap. It's not going to be a singular drive. We're going to have some quick wins, things we can do relatively easily through extensions, but then we have to make these multi-year platform investments. And we have to do it in a way that supports this customer outcome. So when you think about where your back-end investments lie, you definitely want to think about the core systems that have a clear ROI. In other words, that provide not just cost savings, but revenue opportunity, and that provide a foundation for agility and not just growth. You want to be able to move faster to solve the next problem, not just the last problem.